London. So Harry's in a bit of a pickle, isn't he? I mean, this whole thing with the British tabloids, this crusade he's been waging for years now, it's not just spiralling anymore. It's completely falling apart right before our eyes. You've got the Duke of Sussex sitting in a courtroom looking absolutely defeated, like a man who's watched his entire world crumble in a matter of days. And get this, his own legal team, the very people he's been paying millions upon millions of dollars to defend him and protect his reputation, they've quit. They've walked out. They've abandoned ship right in the middle of everything. Now, let me tell you something. That's not just a minor setback. That's not just a little bump in the road. That's like your star quarterback walking off the field in the middle of the championship game. That's like your pilot stepping out of the cockpit while the plane is still in the air. It tells you everything you need to know about how this case is really going behind closed doors. Insiders are saying this wasn't just some routine reshuffling of the legal team. This wasn't about scheduling conflicts or creative differences or any of that nonsense they try to spin to the press. Sources close to the situation are telling us that these lawyers saw the writing on the wall. They looked at the evidence, they watched how the trial was going, they saw the judge's reaction, and they made a calculated decision to get out while they still could. One legal expert put it this way: when solicitors walk away from a high-profile case like this, it's because they believe their client's instructions are unsustainable. Think about that word for a moment. Unsustainable. It means they don't think Harry's version of events can hold up in court. It means they've lost faith in his case entirely. And the judge issued what can only be described as a final warning. A stern, no-nonsense warning that basically told Harry to get his act together or face serious consequences. But that's just the beginning of this disaster, and trust me, it gets so much worse from here. Now, to understand why this matters, to really grasp the full weight of what's happening in that London courtroom, we need to go back to the beginning. We need to understand how Harry got to this point in the first place. Harry was born into one of the most privileged positions on the entire planet. He grew up in palaces surrounded by wealth and opportunity that most of us can't even begin to imagine. But along with all that privilege came something else: the spotlight, the constant, unrelenting, sometimes brutal spotlight of the British press. We all remember what happened to his mother, Princess Diana, the people's princess, a woman who captivated the entire world with her grace and compassion. And we all remember how it ended, that terrible night in Paris, the car chase, the tunnel, the crash that took her life. Harry was just 12 years old when Diana died. 12 years old, and he had to walk behind his mother's coffin with the whole world watching. That kind of trauma doesn't just go away, it shapes you forever. And for Harry, it seems to have created a deep, almost obsessive distrust of the press, a hatred that has been simmering for decades. Now, you can understand where that distrust comes from, right? You can understand why a boy who lost his mother in such a horrific way would grow up resenting the media. That makes sense on a human level. But here's the thing that people don't want to talk about. Understanding where pain comes from and using it to excuse every bad decision that follows are two very different things. Harry's trauma is real, his pain is real, but at some point you have to take responsibility for your own choices. You can't keep blaming everything on what happened when you were 12 years old. For years, Harry managed to balance his resentment of the press with his duties as a working royal. He served in the military with real distinction. He did charity work that genuinely helped people. He smiled for the cameras when he had to. He was the fun prince, the relatable one, the cheeky younger brother who seemed so much more approachable than the future king. The British public absolutely adored him. They saw him as the spare who could do no wrong. They rooted for him. They wanted him to be happy, and for a while it looked like he would be. He seemed to have found his footing with the Invictus Games, supporting wounded veterans, making a real difference in people's lives. Then Meghan came along and everything changed. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not blaming Meghan for everything that has happened. That would be too simple. But there's no denying that Harry's relationship with the press took a dramatic turn after he got together with Meghan. The Cold War with the tabloids became a hot war. The couple started complaining publicly about racist coverage, invasion of privacy, harassment. Some of those complaints were legitimate. There were stories that crossed the line. But Harry and Meghan didn't just want apologies or corrections. They wanted blood. They wanted to take down the entire British tabloid industry. They wanted revenge. And here's where the hypocrisy starts to pile up. They wanted to sell their story to Netflix for $100 million while simultaneously complaining that the press was invading their privacy. They wanted to do tell-all interviews with Oprah while demanding the media leave them alone. I mean, can you see the contradiction there? Can you see how that doesn't make any sense? You can't build an empire on sharing your personal story and then sue people for being interested in your personal story. The two things simply don't go together. The lawsuits started piling up. Harry accused the papers of phone hacking, of hiring private investigators, of running a criminal conspiracy against him. These were serious criminal allegations. If he could prove them, it would be one of the biggest media scandals in British history. But here's the thing about courtrooms. You actually have to prove what you're claiming. You need evidence. You need witnesses. You need documents that back up your accusations. And as this trial has unfolded, it's become painfully clear that Harry might not have the goods. The evidence isn't the smoking gun he promised. His case is crumbling before everyone's eyes. The defence came out swinging from day one. Associated newspapers isn't just defending themselves against Harry's accusations. They're going on offence. They're painting Harry not as an innocent victim of shady press tactics, but as someone who actively played the media game when it suited him. They're saying he used the press when it benefited him and then cried victim when the coverage turned unflattering. And then came the kicker. The defence presented evidence about Katie Nicholl, a well-known royal correspondent Harry accused of criminal activity. But according to the defence, Harry actually invited her to a private party at Kensington Roof Gardens back in 2011. They socialised together. They ran in the same circles. Her response to his accusations was absolutely devastating. She basically said, "No, Harry, you invited me to come and party with you." Can you see how that completely undermines his entire victim narrative? You can't claim someone was criminally stalking you when you were inviting them to your birthday parties. It just doesn't hold together under the slightest scrutiny. The case against Rebecca English fell apart the same way. Harry's lawyers tried to present an email as proof of illegal activity, but the defence tore it apart. They showed her long career as a legitimate journalist with professional access during Harry's time as a working royal. The combined effect has been absolutely brutal for Harry. It's humanising these journalists he tried to turn into cartoon villains. It's making them look like ordinary professionals just doing their jobs. And it's making Harry look petty, vindictive, like a man on a personal witch hunt who can't tell the difference between normal journalism and criminal harassment. You could see the toll it was taking on him in court. He looked stressed, older, diminished. Court reporters describe a man who's aged years in just weeks. His posture was slumped. His face was drawn. There was none of the cheeky energy he used to be known for. The irony is almost too much to bear. Here's a guy who spent years complaining about press intrusion, about how the media wouldn't leave him alone, and now he's sitting in a courtroom with the entire world watching his every move. He wanted to control his narrative, and now his narrative is being torn apart by skilled lawyers in front of a global audience. But wait, it gets worse. Where is Meghan in all this? Where is the woman who stood next to Harry and helped him declare war on the British media? Where is the partner who was supposed to be his ride or die through thick and thin? She's an ocean away in Montecito, that's where. She's sitting in their multi-million-dollar mansion while her husband fights the biggest battle of his life completely alone. There's been no public display of support. No flying across the Atlantic to hold his hand as he walks into court. No defiant statement about standing by her man through this difficult time. Just silence. Radio silence. And that silence is deafening. It screams something, even if we're not entirely sure what that something is. For a couple who built their entire brand on this us against the world narrative, her absence speaks volumes. It doesn't exactly scream ride or die, does it? Some people say someone needs to stay home with the children. They say Archie and Lilibet need their mother. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable. But let's be real here. Harry and Meghan have staff, they have nannies, they have resources that most families can only dream about. If Meghan truly wanted to be in London supporting her husband during the most difficult trial of his life, she could absolutely make it happen. The fact that she's chosen not to be there is exactly that, a choice. And that choice speaks volumes about where things might really stand in that Montecito mansion. The legal team walking out is what really tells you everything you need to know about how this case is going. Lawyers don't quit high-profile cases for no reason. They don't walk away from the publicity and the massive fees unless something has gone seriously wrong behind closed doors. One legal analyst put it about as bluntly as you can put it. He said, when solicitors walk away like this, it's because they believe their client's instructions are unsustainable. They're not abandoning the law, he said. They're abandoning Harry's version of events. That's brutal. That's his own paid team essentially saying his case is a loser. And the judge's final warning, that's the clearest sign yet that Harry has pushed things way too far. Judges don't issue warnings like that lightly. They don't threaten consequences unless they feel their courtroom is being disrespected. From what we're hearing, the proceedings have become increasingly chaotic. Harry was visibly agitated during parts of the proceedings. He was frustrated. He was angry. The whole thing had the feeling of a ship without a captain. And then the judge had enough. The message was unmistakable. Get your house in order or face serious consequences. The legal experts have been unanimous in their analysis, and it's not good news for Harry. One prominent media law attorney said Harry's case has always been ambitious, but now it looks like pure overreach. The kind of conspiracy he's alleging would require proof that these newspapers operated as a coordinated criminal enterprise. That's an enormous bar to clear, and Harry hasn't come anywhere close. His credibility is completely shot. When you've publicly feuded with your family for years, done explosive tell-all interviews with Oprah, written a memoir airing every grievance imaginable, judges look at your new accusations through a lens of deep skepticism. Everything gets second-guessed. Every claim gets questioned. The financial implications are staggering too. If Harry loses, and everything we're seeing suggests that's exactly where this is heading, he could be on the hook for millions in legal fees. Not just his own astronomical costs, but the defendant's fees as well. And this isn't his only legal battle. A devastating loss here will affect all his other pending cases. Then there are the Netflix and Spotify deals worth over $100 million combined. Those deals depend on Harry's ability to generate content people actually want to watch. But who's going to tune in to watch another documentary from someone whose credibility just got demolished in court? Forget the legal drama for a second. This whole thing is really about something much simpler and much more profound. It's about a man who couldn't let go. It's about what happens when you let your worst instincts guide your decisions. Harry built his entire post-royal identity on being a victim of tabloid harassment. That's not just his legal argument, that's his story. That's who Harry is now. He's the prince who stood up to the media bullies. But what happens if that story isn't true? What happens if the courts find his grievances were exaggerated or even invented? It doesn't just mean he loses the lawsuit, it means the entire narrative collapses. There's something almost Shakespearean about Harry's fall. A tragic hero brought down by his own fatal flaw, his inability to let go of the past, his need to be seen as a victim, his conviction that he's always right. The British public, who once adored him, have largely turned against him. Poll after poll shows his favourability in free fall. That didn't happen because of some media conspiracy. It happened because of Harry's own choices. And honestly, watching him in that courtroom, isolated and stressed, you have to wonder if he's really okay. This is a man who's talked publicly about mental health struggles. Now he's in the most stressful situation of his life. Lawyers gone, wife absent, case crumbling. I genuinely hope someone is looking out for his actual well-being. So here we are at the end of this sorry saga. Harry went nuts in court. The judge issued a final warning. His legal team quit. His wife is thousands of miles away. His case is in shambles. This was supposed to be his vindication. Instead, it's become his moment of reckoning. He started a fight he couldn't finish. He made accusations he couldn't prove. Now he's standing alone on an island of his own making. The title says it all, doesn't it? Harry went nuts, the judge warned him, and his lawyers walked out. That's not just a legal setback. That's a man watching his world collapse. And after everything we've seen, maybe this was always how it was going to end. Not with victory, but with a lonely courtroom, an empty chair where his wife should be, and the crushing realization that sometimes the villains you're fighting exist mostly in your own head. That's the real tragedy of Prince Harry, and that's where we leave him today.